Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Ask the Expert call with Scott Gombar. I love these calls because, we have an amazing marketing program, but I love the ability to just ask questions of an expert. And Scott is one of those people who helps Small Business Connecticut immensely. He runs a ton of groups and networking groups and LinkedIn groups in the community, and he really is a very hands-on and great leader when it comes to internet and SEO. I know he does a great package with an SEO optimization package, especially for our members. That's probably one of the best value price packages that I've ever seen, and it includes a lot of teaching and training. So I just love Scott's approach, and I'm so happy to have him here with us today. So with that said, welcome, Scott. Thanks for joining us on the call today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Hey, before we get started, Scott, can you tell us, just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what Scott Gombar Consulting does?
Well, I started out probably about 15 years ago. I was working with some local musicians and artists, and they would come to me, they would want a website, and then they would say, help me get my name out there. So I would market them. And at the time, I didn't realize that's what I was doing. I was marketing them on the internet. Now, 15 years ago, Twitter didn't exist, Facebook didn't exist, and it was pretty much MySpace, and that was it. So that's how I started. And then for about 7 years, I ran my own IT company. I just stopped that last year. I still maintain a few customers, but I stopped accepting new customers last year. But what I realized is the whole time I was running the IT company, I was marketing that business using Twitter and Facebook and Google and everything else. And people were asking me, I would go on a call to help somebody with their computer, and I'd end up showing them how to use Facebook. So to me, it just seemed kind of a natural progression for me to start working in inbound marketing, which means I use the internet to help businesses market their business, ultimately getting people back to their website, which is where you want people to get to come back to your website, because that's where your product or service is offered. So I started this business about a year ago, a little over a year ago now, and it's been fun. And it just dawned on me one day last year. I've been doing it for the last 14 years. I may as well do it full time.
That's awesome. So, Scott, first some really quick housekeeping. There's like a lot of background noise there. If everyone could just mute your phones, and if you don't have mute on your phone, if you hit star and 6, that will mute your phone. But please, at any time during this call, hit star and 6 to unmute your call as well and ask a question. So that's what makes the call so great. Hey, Scott, I'm going to do something a little different that I haven't done before. I'm going to start with a member's question because I thought it was a really great question, and it's something that's on the minds of a lot of people, and it's who listens, who reads Twitter. And let me read the question to you. I don't think she'd mind me sharing this. I own Griswold Home Care, keeping people independent at home for over 30 years. The average age of my clients is 82, women and non-tech savvy. The average age of my customers, their children, is usually women, is 50 to 75. Do my customers tweet?
Well, surprisingly, yes. Not so much the 82-year-olds, but one of the largest growing populations on Twitter and on social media in general is that the children's age, the 50 to 60-year-old group, is a very large, very fast-growing population on social media. I was surprised even, I think it was 2 years ago, my mother joined Facebook, and I was shocked. She added me as a friend, and it kind of caught me off guard, but, she was 61 at the time. So it is the fastest-growing population, and yes, they do tweet, and yes, they do look for what services that are being offered, products that are being offered. People in general tend to trust companies that are visible on social media in general. Twitter is one of the more popular social media platforms, and it's one that companies tend to use more to share their ideas, their thoughts, and so forth on. So it's a great way to reach those people.
Awesome. It's interesting because I've been talking to a lot of people lately, and they use Twitter to just keep up to speed on news. And I thought that was really interesting, too, like what's going on. And it's a really quick minute-by-minute news feed. So I think older people like myself maybe are getting a little more in tune to, hey, if I want news at my fingertips, here it is as well.
It is, and it's funny because some news stories actually break on Twitter now. CNN and some of the other news sources actually get the source from Twitter instead of from their traditional sources. It's happened a couple times. I think there was a plane crash in New York last year that broke on Twitter first, something like that. And
wow.
It's interesting that because people are right there, what do? They take a picture, they post it to Twitter.
So the other part of her question I think is equally as interesting. Not only who is our customer, but she has a very nurturing environment, right? How do you transmit that professional but nurturing, caring, gentle, that emotion on Twitter? So I think that's really interesting. Like we think about Twitter for news and inspiration, but what about for projecting our brand?
What I would do, the way I run my business and the way I work with my clients is I'm very transparent. So yes, I'm going to talk about what I do. I don't believe in the hard sale on social media. You'll very rarely see me post anything about a sales pitch, about, buy this, do this, very rarely for me. What I do is I put what it is I do, I educate people, but I also put a little bit of my personal business on there. I might post a picture of my son or something family related or an accomplishment, something about my personal life. So I believe that people trust companies more, especially smaller businesses more, when there's an image attached to that brand. So for the healthcare field, if you posted, what happens at this facility on a day-to-day basis, maybe events that are going on, maybe post some pictures of some of those events, things like that, so people can see what happens at the facility, what kind of events is, maybe there's an image of a healthcare facility where it's all doom and gloom. In reality, I'm sure a lot of us know that's not the case. It's an active lifestyle. They do a lot of fun stuff. Share that with the rest of the population on Twitter.
That's awesome, Scott. I think about the folks on this call, and I think about our members at Small Business Connecticut, and we have two different, for the sake of Twitter, two different diverse groups. There's that B2B group, right? That it's business. It's about catching attention. It's about getting other businesses to pay attention. And then there's that B2C member who's really about just what you said about building the relationship, not that we don't as a B2B business, but, really kind of connecting what's going on in life to our services and keeping people informed and building the trust on a different level. Would you agree with that? Is there two different ways to tweet?
There is two different ways to tweet. Again, I always advise clients to stay away from hard sales pitches on social media. That tends to be a turnoff. It's kind of like, it doesn't happen as often as it used to, but you walk into, let's say, an electronics store or a car dealership, and you get this sales guy, and he's just throwing deal after deal after deal, and you get turned off. You turn around and leave. You don't. That's not what you want. You want to be educated. You want to know what you're getting into. You want to know all about it before you make a decision. And today, that's what our consumers are today. Both businesses and the consumer, they want to know what they're getting into before they say, yes, I'll work with you. And we have to educate them. So use Twitter. The way I do it and the way I work with my clients is we create a blog or source of information, education. And Twitter is where you share that information. You come back to my blog, read this about, you want an update on the healthcare facility. You want to see, what kind of activities are going on, what is the day-to-day lifestyle, maybe what is the menu today, or things like that. Do we have any trips coming up? What kind of care can I expect? We're educating them instead of throwing a hard sales pitch at them. And by doing so, you build up a trust. So in a way, it's the same, but in a way, yes, I understand it's a little different because businesses have different buying points than a consumer does.
So what is, if you're talking to the B2B folks on this call, give them an example maybe of what you deem as a great tweet for a B2B business. I'm totally putting you on the spot here, Scott. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I'm actually working with a group now that they do. It's called ESOP Marketplace, and he's looking for people who are looking to possibly make their businesses employee owned. So he's marketing to other businesses. And believe it or not, on Twitter, there are a lot of CEOs, a lot of directors, a lot of business owners, and we are targeting those people on Twitter right now. So I target specifically CEOs, business owners, businesses. Some businesses have Twitter profiles. I target those businesses, and we get them to come back to his blog and his website to learn more about the advantages of an employee-owned company. And it is working. He's getting people to his website. What his conversion is somebody signing up for one of the packages on his website to be able to advertise their business. So it is a successful program right now using actually primarily Twitter at this point, where we're attracting those businesses to sign up for a package on his website and be able to advertise their business. So he's got ESOP lawyers, he's got ESOP advisors, administrators, and so forth, where they advertise their services on his website.
Well, that's pretty cool. So let's talk about the do's and don'ts of Twitter. You know, I think there's some do's and don'ts to hashtags. What do you think?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Some people get carried away with hashtags. The hashtag should be conversational. So it should fit in whatever. You only have 140 characters, although there are ways to add more characters. But you only have 140 characters. I shouldn't see, one big long sentence with a hashtag in front of it, and because you're going to have to decipher it at that point, and it's not going to be conversational. It's not going to make any sense. Just like your website should be conversational, so should tweets that include hashtags. So, for example, I posted on Twitter this morning about this call. I don't remember the exact verbiage, but I said something about learn how to increase conversions using Twitter, and I just put a hashtag in front of the word Twitter. It's just got to be part of the conversation rather than looking like a jumbled up bunch of words.
So you know what I do, Scott, so I think it's a major don't. Oh, you probably know what I do because you probably see my mistakes. But I always, I'll write a quote, and then at the bottom, I'll list some hashtags of groups that I think, that things that I, hashtags that I look at to find quotes or inspiration or whatever. So I list some hashtags at the bottom if I haven't used all my words. Is that a no-no?
Well, it depends. So, one or two hashtags after the hashtag itself shouldn't be more than, a couple of words. It shouldn't be an entire sentence. And, you don't want to put a quote and then put 20 hashtags after it because that's, it looks spammy, in my opinion. And I think a lot of people would agree with that.
All right, I'm done. I'm done with those hashtags. Are there any other do's and don'ts for Twitter?
The other one, I get, this happens quite a bit, and I'm sure anybody who's on Twitter has seen this. You don't want to do the auto direct message. So somebody follows you, and you have, because there's tons and tons and tons of apps that work with Twitter. If you have it set up so that they get an auto direct message as soon as they follow you, that to me is also a turn off. It just seems disingenuous. It seems spammy. Right now, I just haven't gotten around to removing the person. I get a direct message from this person every single night around the same time, so I can tell that it's being done automatically, and it just seems very spammy. Another one, again, is the hard sales pitch. I see people get on Twitter, and they all they do is pump out sales pitch after sales pitch after sales pitch, and it's a big turnoff. Like I said earlier, it's kind of like walking onto a dealer's lot, and you know, you got the image of that used car salesman right down your throat, going, buy this car, buy this car, buy this car, and it makes you uncomfortable. It's the same thing on Twitter. You don't want to do sales pitch after sales pitch. If you are a business owner, I would definitely stay away from, I guess you could call it the text language, where you do acronyms like LOL, or, I mean, LOL is probably okay, but some of the other ones, LMFAO, things like that, I would stay away from those as a business owner. It looks childish. Or, you know, the misspellings of words where you eliminate the vowels, things like that.
Okay. So I get a lot of tweets from Twitter users. Should I respond to everyone who tweets to me?
If it seems genuine, yes, you should always reply. So there's a couple of ways that can happen. They could direct message you, and you should reply via direct message. You can also reply, you know, if they include you in a tweet or they retweet you, you should definitely thank them for retweets. Or if they, for lack of a better word, if they @ you, so they put the @ symbol in front of your ID, that means they're including you in the conversation. You should also reply to that. It's just common courtesy. I think it's kind of like if you're out in public, you're at a party, and somebody includes you in the conversation, you talk with them as well.
Oh, interesting. I love that, Scott, because I never actually thought about Twitter as a conversation. So here's, thank you for that. And just for everybody on the call, just a little housekeeping again, I'm sorry, but it's *6 to unmute your phone and ask a question, so feel free to interrupt us at any point. And then also, if you don't feel like asking it live for whatever reason, you can email me, and I stay connected throughout the calls, to info@smallbusinesspt.com. So, okay, this is what I need help with, Scott. I've heard two things that are just techno jargon for me. The first one is a verified Twitter account, and the other one is an optimized Twitter profile. Help me. Please explain those things.
Okay, so verified Twitter accounts, they're kind of I don't know the right word for that. A lot of people don't understand what they're about. And what they are really is Twitter verifies only certain users. There's no way to get a verified account. Twitter just verifies it. It's usually a celebrity account or a very large corporation. You know, if I'm sure we all know President Obama was big on Twitter when he ran for election. His account was verified, but I'm sure they encouraged it. But, you know, it's not up to the user. It's up to Twitter to verify an account. There's no way that a user can have a verified account without Twitter intervening. So, for example, my account, even though
I'm sorry.
No,
is
not
there a
at
way
this
to
point.
ask Twitter?
Not at this point. I don't know if it's something they plan in the future. Twitter is making some changes now, and you know, now that it's public, maybe it's something they'll offer as a paid service in the future. But at this point, no, there's no way to do that. Just Twitter just says, yes, this person is really this person, and now they're verified. But it's usually celebrities and large corporations and things like that.
And then what does it mean to have a fully optimized Twitter profile?
So your profile for any social media, not just Twitter, but any platform, you should have images that reflect your business or reflect your personality. So you have the header image, and if you're on Twitter frequently, you probably noticed that they changed their profile page. So now you have to change your image. Some images didn't match their new profile layout. So you have a header image, and you have your profile image, which if you're a person, it should be your mugshot. No, not a mugshot. I'm just kidding. Headshot. You know, at least a good-looking picture. It should be a clear picture. And the header image should reflect what you do or your personality. And then you set up a profile which has a limited number of characters as well. I don't remember the number of characters, but it's not a lot. So you want to make sure that, again, it's conversational, but that it has keywords that relate to what you do or what you want your profile to be found by.
Okay.
And Twitter also added some new features too, so now you can pin a tweet. So what I did is I have on my website now, I have a free analysis of your website. So I pinned that tweet, so that tweet is always at the top of my list of tweets. So you can also do that. That's another way to kind of expand your profile.
Awesome. So, Scott, so let's talk about Twitter followers, because there's a lot of people that really believe that the number of followers validates you or gives you credibility as a business. But, you know, on the flip side, I've heard about these companies that they'll advertise, 2,000 followers for $10. Like, talk to me about that piece.
Yeah, so those companies, they're getting people that aren't quality followers. When you get Twitter followers, you want quality followers. So if I'm a small business in Connecticut that maybe I sell, vacuum cleaners, I want to attract consumers in Connecticut who may be looking for vacuum cleaners. Believe it or not, people are going to tweet, where can I find a decent vacuum cleaner? So you can listen using Twitter. So you listen there's numerous apps again out there that do this, and you listen for people saying, I need a vacuum cleaner. And then maybe you follow them. And then they follow back because, oh, look, this follower, they sell vacuum cleaners. I should follow them back. Maybe I could get some more information on where I can get a decent vacuum cleaner that's not going to break on me in 6 months. Again, using the company I just started working with, the ESOP Marketplace, I targeted directors, CEOs, businesses, and so forth. You can do that. There's tools out there. You can use Twitter itself to target that. You can search hashtags on Twitter to see what people are tweeting about. So I use specific hashtags to find followers. And it's kind of an unwritten rule on Twitter. If you follow somebody, they should follow you back. Your ratio should be pretty close to 1-to-1. If you see a Twitter user where their ratio is 2,000 to 1 or vice versa, then it's probably not the best profile in the world to follow. If they don't have a profile picture, I wouldn't follow them. If they aren't active, they haven't tweeted in the last 6 months, I wouldn't follow it. And if they follow you, I would maybe block them. If they start spamming, if you start getting, I've had people follow me that seem like completely legitimate followers, and the next day I see them posting links to, adult websites or questionable material, so I immediately block them. Twitter actually actively looks for these accounts too and removes them as well, so I get a report that 6 followers have been blocked by Twitter, things like that. So you can absolutely target specific people on Twitter, and that will work to your advantage. So you don't want to just follow everybody. You don't want to have 10,000 followers. Those companies that sell the 2,000 followers for $10 or whatever it is, those are not quality followers. They're not going to help you grow your business. It's not going to happen. It's not the number, it's the quality.
Awesome. So let's switch gears a little bit since we're talking about, followers and talk to me about Twitter cards. What are they and how can I use them?
So Twitter cards started out about, 3 or 4 years ago, I think. And it's a way to expand your 140 characters. You have to set this up on your website ahead of time. If you're using WordPress, it's very easy to do. It's a plugin you install, and you have to ask Twitter permission to use Twitter cards. So there's a link on how to set that up. I believe I have a blog post on my website for it. So once you get permission from Twitter, they give you the code, you add it to your website, and then every time you post something on Twitter and you include the URL for that post, it'll give you more information. It adds more characters, and you can add an image depending. There's different versions of the Twitter card. You can add video. It's a way to expand your tweets. So you still see, when you go to Twitter, you still see the 140 characters, but then it gives you an option to click summary, and you click on summary, and it gives you more information about that post. And for example, I use it on blog posts, so it'll give me. I'm allowed to add more information about the blog post using the Twitter card, and then a URL back to the blog post and an image.
Interesting. So what about Twitter ads? Should I use Twitter ads, and what would I use an ad for?
Twitter ads, I've used them in the past. It really depends on your goal. You can use Twitter ads to get more qualified followers. You can use Twitter ads to get people back to your website. They're very cost effective. Twitter Analytics is very detailed, a lot like Google Analytics or Facebook Insights. It's very detailed, so you get a lot of information about how well your ad is performed. The way they work is it's like promoted. You'll see, I think it's actually called promoted. It'll be promoted to people's Facebook feeds, and it'll say that it's a promoted ad. So you're targeting not only your followers, but you're targeting other people by how your ad is set up. It's a way to reach people that you might not be able to reach with your profile normally.
Okay, awesome. So before we go any further, are there any questions out there from members? I just got an email saying that the sound quality is bad and that they couldn't understand us, and I apologize for that. I don't know how it sounds for you, Scott, but it sounds okay from my end. So
I occasionally hear a little bit of feedback, but not that often, not consistently.
I've just asked everyone to mute your phones if you could, and unmute them, of course, to ask a question right now. But I apologize for that. That's not anything that we want to have. So I apologize. But are there any questions out there for Scott? Okay, so Scott, I do have a couple. So what type of content should I'm sorry, we asked that question. That was from a member. Let me see, I'm just reading through some member questions. I apologize. Now that I know what to tweet, how often should I tweet?
Oh, that's a really common question, actually. And it's twofold. There's all kinds of recommendations out there. I've looked at a lot of the recommendations. I've posted some of those recommendations. On average, I would say 5 to 10 times a day. It will keep your followers engaged. It also depends on how many followers you have. But on average, 5 to 10 times a day will keep your followers engaged, as long as it's quality content. But you'll also want to try out different ways of posting. So different times of the day, how often, you can see what kind of engagement you're getting using Twitter Analytics, and there's some other analytic tools out there that you can use. So you're going to want to test it. You're going to want to see if I post at 7 a.m., what kind of engagement am I getting? If I post at 5 p.m., what kind of engagement am I getting? There are studies out there that show the best engagement for Twitter happens first thing in the morning. I know this sounds dangerous, but people are sitting in traffic, so they go to Twitter. People are on the train, so they go to Twitter. And the same thing in late afternoon, early evening. Also, one of the more popular times of the day or important times of the week is Friday evening and Saturday morning and afternoon, believe it or not. A lot of people are on social media during those times of the day. After lunch seems to be a very popular time of the day. But definitely, you don't want to go dormant either. So you don't want to post something on Twitter on one day and then not come back to it for 2 weeks. You want to be active. That's probably the most important piece, is to be active on Twitter. But I don't know that there's a set number. I think it all depends on the user and what they're trying to do and how many followers they have. So each account is going to be a little different. But on average, I would say 5 to 10 times a day. Hello?
Oops, I'm sorry. I had it on mute still. How do at mentions work? I've heard there's a right and a wrong way to use them is our next question.
I'm sorry, how does what work?
At mentions, the little at symbol.
At mentions, right. There actually is two ways to do it. So if you just place an at in front of a user ID, you're including that person in a conversation, but the rest of the Twitter population is not seeing it. If you put a period in front of the at, now you're including the rest of Twitter in the conversation. Now, how it's been used for me in the past, maybe you have somebody else who's an expert in your field, or somebody else who's an expert in another subject matter. So let's say, for example, let's go back to the vacuum cleaner guy. Let's say somebody asks me, do I know a good vacuum cleaner that I can recommend? And I have opinions, but I'm not the expert. So I would say I might reply and then at the person who is the expert. Kind of like networking in a way. So when you nobody's an expert in everything. So when you need an expert, what do? You find, if you know an expert, you ask the expert and say, hey, this person needs help with the vacuum cleaner. This person needs help finding a plumber. And I'm intentionally using fields where I've been told in the past, Twitter doesn't work for that. So yes, it does work. Plumbers, I tell you what, I need a plumber right now. And I asked a friend, do you know any good plumbers? He said no. So what did I do? I went to social media to find a plumber. And I got all kinds of recommendations for plumbers in my area. So it does work. And the way you would do that is, oh yeah, John is an excellent plumber, and let me include him in the conversation at John or whatever his user ID is, whatever his handle is, and then he gets involved in the conversation. He's got a new customer now potentially. So that's the way you should use it. Include people in conversations that are relevant. You don't want to just spam somebody because, oh look, it's I don't know, Derek Jeter. Let me spam him. First of all, he's probably not running his account, and second of all, it just looks like you're trying to get attention.
Awesome. Hey, Scott, our next question is, how do I use Twitter for crowdfunding? The question just keeps getting tougher and tougher.
Yeah, that's a great question. There are tons of crowdfunding sources now. I actually know somebody who's starting a company right here in New Haven County. That's what they're going to be doing is crowdfunding. I guess if you have a good idea, and this is not something I've actually done myself, so I don't have a lot of experience with it, but you probably want to share your idea with people without revealing the specifics, and see how many people are interested. I'm sure there are tons of venture capitalists on Twitter, and there are crowdfunding websites on Twitter. You can follow them. They'll probably follow you back because that's what they're looking for, is more people to interact with. I'd have to look into that more though, because I haven't experienced that yet.
What's interesting about crowdfunding is, we had a board meeting and we were talking about crowdfunding, and we have a lot of startup groups that are interested in Small Business Connecticut and come our way and join. And one of the things that came up with crowdfunding is older generations like myself, we give at the office, United Way, you have the MS Society, whatever your vehicle of choice is for donation, church. But the younger generations, millennials, that is their way to pay it forward and give it directly to the community. So it really opens up some great opportunity if you think about who your audience is on Twitter. Your audience is primarily young millennials, right? So I think it's a great way to reach out to them if you can figure out how.
It definitely
is. Did I hear a question? Go ahead, Scott.
I would definitely agree with that. Again, there's a misconception with Twitter and Facebook that both of them are geared towards the younger kids, the teenagers, but that is not the case. Both platforms have been around for a while, and there are older people on there now. The millennials, there's the baby boomers. They're all on Twitter. They're all not all of them, but a lot of them are on Twitter now. And like I said, those are the fastest growing segments of our population right now. And just for me as an example, when I do give, I usually use concern.org, and I followed them. I'm not sure if they follow me back, but I follow them to see, because they work with multiple charities. So I follow them to see what's the charity right now, and do I want to give to that charity. So yeah, you're right. It is an excellent resource for those that are looking to give back or to help somebody else. Definitely a great resource to see what those companies are doing and how you can help.
Did I hear a question out there? All right, members, any questions, or anybody on the call, any questions, please feel free to ask or email info@smallbusinessconnecticut, smallbusinessct.com. Sorry about that. Scott, what do you think is the most impactful thing that you've ever done on Twitter? Like, if you could say one thing that you were most proud of on Twitter, what would it be? What was that move?
It's probably going to sound a little selfish, but I've generated business on Twitter. I've had people ask me on Twitter for help. A lot of times what happens is they just ask questions, and I answer them. I don't know why some businesses feel like when you get asked a question about what do you do for business or how would you do something, you don't want to give that information. You tell them, no, I'll do it for you. This is how much it costs. For me, I do it the exact opposite. I say, well, I'll give you some information. I'll tell you exactly how you do it, because for me, it seems like I'm just under the impression for my business, and I would think probably for most businesses, if I'm telling you how to do it, that means you don't know how to do it. And I may give you the instructions, you're still probably not going to know how to do it. So you're probably going to come back to me and say, you know what, I want your help. And I'm going to tell you 99% of the time that's exactly what happens. It may not be right away, but eventually they'll come back to you because you gave them a piece of information. They trust you now because they tried it. And maybe it was really hard for them, but they saw some results from it. They said, you know what, I'm going to give this 100%, but I can't give it 100%. I've done this on Twitter where I've given people a little bit of information. They ask me how to do something, and they don't come back to me right away. They come back to me months, sometimes years later, and say, remember when I asked you about this? Well, I need some help with it. Can you help me? So to me, I think and I get asked all the time, people say, well, why do you use Twitter? You don't generate business from Twitter. Yes, you can generate business, and I have generated business several times over. And how much money am I spending on Twitter? I don't spend a lot of money, and I don't spend a lot of time. You can plan your tweets ahead of time, so I don't spend a lot of time on it. And absolutely, you can generate business from Twitter.
So, Scott, I am curious. Let's talk about, like, planning Twitter ahead and scheduling tweets. How do you do that?
I use Hootsuite. I'm actually a Hootsuite certified partner. So I use Hootsuite to plan out my schedule on Twitter. Sometimes weeks ahead. Sometimes I just don't have the bandwidth to sit down and do weeks ahead, so maybe I'll just do 1 week at a time. And I also do that with some of my clients. I plan out their tweets ahead of time. And you can do that. It's not just Twitter. Hootsuite is not just used for Twitter. It can be used for other social platforms as well. So it's really useful tool to be able to plan ahead. There's tons of apps built into Hootsuite where you can see, I mentioned earlier, where you can listen for conversations. So for me, I'm listening for people that might be looking for SEO or for help with social media. And it does come into my feeds. And this person is looking for an inbound marketer, an internet marketer. And then I might message them or join the conversation. So Hootsuite is a really, really valuable tool, and it's very, 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 very affordable. So that would be, unfortunately, Twitter doesn't have a built-in way to schedule tweets at this point. I don't know if that's something they're planning. So Hootsuite for me is the way to go.
Awesome. Any questions? I'm out of questions for members, so if anybody else has, and I apologize because maybe the sound quality is, they have decided to cut bricks right outside of my office during this call. I just want to go and bop them over the head out there. But
yeah, I've got people cutting the grass here, so.
Golly, bad timing. Hey, so are there any other questions from members out there?
You know, I would also say that Twitter is a great resource even if you're not going to use it for your business, it's a great resource for information. I follow all the local news sources, the weather sources, everything. So I know, again, a lot of times Twitter is the first one to have a piece of information before CNN, before weather.com, before anybody else. And so it's a great resource just to find out what's going on in your neighborhoods, in your local area. If you follow some of the restaurants you like, if you follow some of the other brick and mortar establishments you like, and if they're active on Twitter, then you're probably going to get information before anybody else does, because they're going to Twitter, they're going to the social media platforms to tell you about what's going on. So it's even if you just use it for that, it's definitely worth the investment. And there's no cost involved at all if you're just doing that.
You know, it's funny. So my daughter has an Instagram and a Twitter account, right? And so, you know, we as a business owner, you work really hard to get these accounts and, you know, and to build your followers and build relationships out there. And so my 9-year-old, under my guidance, of course, goes on to Instagram and Twitter, and the kid's got thousands of followers, but she posts cute pictures of animals and of her favorite celebrities and, you know, what's cuter, this or this kind of stuff. And it's really interesting that, you know, I think the magic sauce for her are the pictures. And, you know, it really, especially with Instagram, obviously, but it really has, she's gained quite this following by just, you know, doing what she loves. And I think when we talk about engagement and driving engagement with Twitter, you know, you talked about it a little bit before, but, you know, I think when you do something that's genuine and that you love and that you trust, that engagement and that trust is built in vehicles like Twitter. But I guess to just wrap it up, unless, of course, anybody else has any questions, I'd love, maybe you could expand just a little bit on anything we might have missed on what kind of content works best for engagement.
The best content by far are images and videos. People are more likely to I don't remember the number, but it's a substantial number. People are more likely to interact with tweets that have an image or video. And yes, you can post videos to Twitter, or you can use Vine, which is owned by Twitter, to post videos. You can actually, people are doing 6-second commercials on Vine and posting them to Twitter. And those get a ton more interaction than just a text, I'm sorry, I'm getting a call, hang on. Just a text message or your 140 characters. So they get a ton more interaction, engagement, and feedback. People are more likely to respond. People are more likely to share that video or that photo. And I agree with you that, you know, I have a daughter that's almost 19 years old, and it's the same thing with her. Her Twitter following is huge. Her Instagram following is huge. But I think a big part of that is not to take away from Twitter, because that's what I do, but those are people she went to school with or people she knows from her personal life. So it's the same thing for us. As we meet people, say, hey, you know what, I have a Twitter account. You want to get more information about what I do? I post it regularly. And you tell them what your Twitter handle is. You go out and meet people and you tell them about that. So it's networking. You know, for a 9-year-old or a 19-year-old, it's networking. They're just doing it differently than we do it. They're not as shy as we are. But definitely photos and videos. The hashtags help because people are searching for those hashtags. And no matter how anti-Twitter you think your hashtag is going to be, it's not. Like I use plumbers, I use vacuum cleaner salesmen. They're on Twitter. If you think of a business that can't use Twitter, go on Twitter and check, and I promise you it's there. And a plumber, they may be posting pictures of some plumbing they just did. Maybe they showed up at somebody's house who had an emergency, they had a leak, and they fixed it. They took pictures, before and after pictures. They put that on Twitter and shared it. They put it on Instagram and shared it to Twitter from Instagram. They posted a video of it from Vine to Twitter. People are more likely to trust somebody that shows a before and after picture of plumbing work than they are to say, yeah, I just fixed plumbing at so-and-so's house. I'd rather see what you did than hear about it or read about it. So definitely more engagement using pictures and videos. People are more likely to share that as well, especially if it's something cool. To me, plumbing, again, would be something cool. I know nothing about it. So you're the biggest genius in the world if you come and fix a simple plumbing problem in my house, or what to him might be simple to me is huge. And then you take pictures and put it on Twitter, and that's exactly what I would tell the plumber that came to my house.
That's awesome, Scott. Scott, thank you so much for your time today and for teaching us about Twitter. I know I took a bunch of notes. Could you just give us your contact information if anybody wants to reach out to Scott? And if you have any questions for him, I know he'd be happy to answer anything.
Yes, definitely. So my email is scott@scottgombar.com, and the last name is Gom, as in mom, BAR.com. My website is scottgombar.com. My Twitter handle is Scott Gombar. My Facebook is Scott Gombar LLC. I have Google Plus and everything else, but it's all linked on my website. So if you just go to scottgombar.com, it's all there. My phone number is 203-806-0736.
You know what? I think you forgot your Twitter handle.
No, I said Scott Gombar.
Oh, you did? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Scott. I appreciate it.
I would also recommend something new that I see and I do on my own business card, and a lot of people should do this. Put your Twitter handle and Facebook handle on your business card. A lot of businesses are doing that now. So that's important too. People might follow you on Twitter to get, I have your email address or phone number. What are the chances I'm going to interact with you on a regular basis? But if I have your Twitter handle, I'm more likely to interact with you on a regular basis.
Great idea. Awesome. Thank you so much. Everyone, if you have any questions, please feel free to email Scott, or I know that he'll be happy to get back to you and answer any questions that you have. Thank you so much for today and for the questions that were emailed in. We really appreciate them. And everyone, please just have a great day. Here's to your success. Enjoy your week. Thank you, Scott. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.